have 8 o'clock. I know it seems weird because it's so light outside for us here in Ohio, but it is that time for us to start Zoom and Tell. So welcome everybody. And again, it's June and it's hard to believe it's already June already. But I'm going to let David start off here before we start our program. So David, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Julie. Well, welcome to everyone who's joined us this evening, and hopefully, we have a few more people who are going to be just joining a little bit late. Well, this evening our program is going to be led by Jack Thompson on candy boxes, candy containers. So I know candy containers in general are one of those little mystery lines that we know Cambridge made, and we know they're out there, but so many companies made so many different candy containers. So I'm interested in hearing about that because they can be a little tricky to distinguish between what company made which ones. And then candy boxes or candy dishes. Probably all of us have a couple of those in our collection, so it'll be fun to see what's shared with us here this evening. And then, Julie, at the end, I can come back and let everyone know what the topic is for July.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, David. So I'm going to mute everybody and then we'll start the program. Okay, I've got everybody muted. So Jack, take it away.
All right, thank you, Julie. Well, this topic of candy containers, candy jars, candy boxes, and covers kind of morphed out of the December program, which I did on things with lids. And when we looked at that, things with lids, that was a pretty broad category in itself. So, but the subject of the candy containers we thought was a good one to pull out because it in itself is a huge topic. Cambridge made something that contained candy in the middle, whatever they called it, all the way from their very beginnings in 1903 all the way through the company's closing. So it was a popular item in many respects. When they started out making candy containers, they were predominantly for, I guess, the institutional trade. In other words, they sold them predominantly to drugstores and general stores and pharmacists and things like that to have on they were 4, 5, and 6 pound containers, even 2 pound for the small ones. And they didn't really start making them until in the late 1910 up into the 1915 for individual use. So, but they still just made a lot of things. And they called them different things and not consistently. And this was something that kind of perplexed me when I was looking at this. We've heard the term candy jar, candy box and cover. They even had other things. There was a candy bowl and cover and lid, and they weren't consistent on what they called things. So we don't really get caught up in that. It's just there are candy jars, candy containers, etc. And then what David mentioned that we're going to talk just briefly a little bit about is Cambridge made these little candy containers in little different shapes and sizes and everything, and filled them. And somebody, I don't know who filled them with candy, and they had a little lid on them, and they sold them that way. So they probably sold them to the candy people or whatever. They put candy in them and then sold them that way. So anyway, so I'm going to share my screen and show a few things and kind of just run through real briefly some things that Cambridge did, and then we'll go from there. So let's see if I can do this. Julie, you need to re-enable me to share screen, please.
Okay. Oops. Nope. Okay, you should be good now.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, can everybody see that screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right. Okay, let's get to the first one. Okay. First one, I just wanted to show this. It's the catalog page, but it shows what Cambridge was making. This was 1906, but they were also making this in 1903. And these were these institutional candy jars. You know, this is there's a 4-pound jar here, a 5-pound, a 3-pound. So these weren't sold to the general public. They were sold to, you know, our retailers, et cetera, whoever was using those. And this is what I wanted to show, what David was talking about, these candy containers. And I'm going to see if I can't zoom in a little bit. I probably can't. But they made in the 1916, this is the only catalog they show up on. And these are all kind of small little containers. In fact, I'm going to show you ours. This is the little engine container. And you see it's got a little cap on the end, so they would fill them with candy and sell them as such. A lot of these are very hard to find. There's a number of different ones. There's a car and the guns and the boats. A Cambridge, an NCC member who is really the expert at these things, has been looking at these things for 50 years. And there's 2 of them that apparently he has never seen, they've never been found. And one of them is the owl down here in the lower left-hand corner. And the second one is called On the Hog, and that's up here next to the rabbit. Apparently those 2 have never been seen by anybody. So, so if you find one of those, you are one lucky camper. So we're going to go through kind of chronologically. This is the number 1917-86 1-pound candy jar and cover. This had 2 different etchings on it. Number 408 and then 619, which is the band along the rim. You see that on, of course, a lot of things. And Cambridge did a lot of different things where they would put 2 etches on a piece or 2 different cuttings on a piece. So this particular jar came with these 2 etchings predominantly. So then we get into the number 95 1-pound candy jar. This was azurite. Of course, many of you have seen these. Came in a lot of the opaques. This one is etched Egypt with green enamel, the Nankin green enamel encrusted. And these candy jars came with predominantly 2 different knobs too. This is the knob you've seen most often. The next one is the 1/2-pound jar in peach blow with cutting on it, but this has the rose knob in emerald, light emerald. So those came with those on there too as well. And of course, I had to show a Ribena piece because I just love the Ribena candy jars. There was a tall one and a short one. This is a short one, and this has the white gold trim on it. So this is one of my favorite ones. This one actually is from the 1920s, but it was also in the 34 catalog too as well. This is the number 730 candy dish. It is spiral optic, and then it has a gray cutting on it as well, number 13 from the Cambridge line. So this is one of our favorite pieces. There's a set of candy jars then that are the 299, which is the 5-inch, and the number 300, which is the 6-inch, but they look the same other than the one's a little bigger than the other. And they all predominantly, there's 3 different knobs you'll see with them. This is one that you'll see the most often, and this is a peach blow with a gray cutting. You'll also see this knob a lot less often. This is much tougher to find. This is topaz with a gray cutting. And then the 3rd knob you'll see, of course, this is back to the rose in light emerald. So, and they made this in crystal and light emerald and also carmine. So, and of course I had to show an Elaine one. And this is the 300, which is the 6-inch version. And this has a carmine rose knob on it. So, and there's the candy box, that candy jar, whatever, that in the tally-ho line in Elaine. And gold encrusted. And I wasn't going to throw this in there, but when I did a search for candy jars, this showed up, and I go, no, that's the covered urn. I go, why is that a candy jar? And sure enough, when it was introduced in the 3034 catalog, actually in 33, this is the small one, the 10-inch, said candy jar or urn. I'm going, huh, okay. So it's just marketing. You know, if somebody wanted to use it as a candy jar, it was just marketing to use it that way. So anyway, I had to throw that in there. This is a favorite piece of ours, again, part of the Elaine collection. This was a very popular candy bar from the Gadroon line, the 3500 line, and this is the number 57. This is 4-screen and then etched Elaine. Another popular one that was from the 3500 line, this is the Ram's Head one, and this is also gold encrusted Elaine. And I'm just threw one of these in there because there were a number of candy boxes that shared the same lid. This is the 3600 stem with the Elaine etch, but also the 3121 line also had the same comport, shared the same lid. 3500 line also did, as well as the 1066 line. So all four of those, and there may be another one, I don't know, those are the four ones off the top of my head, that shared the same exact lid, and they just put it on the comport and made it a candy box. So just more good marketing from the Cambridge. This was another very popular one from the 3400 line, the number 9 candy box, and this one is Cut Lucia. Now we're getting into the later ones here. From the Seashell line in Windsor Blue, this is their candy box that was in that line. And then there were a few in the Pristine line. And, you know, Pristine, they did a bunch of star things. Not only did they do the star candlesticks, but they did the star bowls, and there was a large one and the small one. The small one, they put a lid on it and made a candy box. So that's all that is. Now, they also made this in Moonlight Blue, but to the best of our knowledge, they never made a Moonlight lid, at least that anybody's ever seen. I don't know why, but because they could have done so. Sometimes you'll see a crystal one on a Moonlight bowl, but it's we think it's just a marriage. So, and this is one of our most favorite pieces, and this is the people call the apple, but it's the number 316 candy box. It's one of the only a couple pieces where I get nervous even handling it whenever we have to clean it or dust it, because it is just so paper thin. I'm so afraid of breaking it, but these are very, very hard to find. This is an Elaine one. They came with 3 different handles that I'm aware of. This one has a Carmen handle on it. They also did an emerald handle, a green one on it, and also crystal. I don't know if there were other colors or not. Those are the 3 that I've seen. So, and this is the 103 candy box. It's divided 3-part. This is cut Vesta. This is you see this quite often. And then we're getting into the 40s here towards the latter part of the company. This is the Arcadia candy box and cover. It's interesting when they marketed Arcadia. I always think this is cool. Their reference to it and the brochures and everything, they marketed it as ice crystal, which I think is a kind of a cool name for Arcadia. So the 3900, we're getting into really late now. They made a footed and non-footed candy box in the 3900 line. And this is a Elaine one in the footed one. And went by one, penultimate one here, the Cascade candy box and cover with the Charlton pinstripe and roses decor on that in emerald. And then the last one I have here is the Modern candy box and cover in Moonlight. They made this in a number of different colors in smoke, mandarin gold, lake pink, and crystal too as well. But to the best of my knowledge, there's no documentation on these pieces. You know, there's they made the candlesticks and a bowl and plate, underplate, etc. But I don't know where you find those in any Cambridge literature. So, but we know they're Cambridge. So. And that is it. So that's kind of a brief run through of the candy boxes, and I'm looking to see what you all get to show tonight. And before we do that, does anybody have any questions on anything?
Jack, I actually have a question. When you go back to that page in the catalog, you also see the cat bottle and the dog bottle.
Oh, sure. Yep. They're down at the bottom. That's the right there. Yeah, down at the
Yeah.
bottom. Uh-huh.
I didn't realize those were used as candy bottles.
They're not. In fact, the top, see, the candy containers are about in the middle of this page.
Oh, okay.
Candlestick right here too. And there's the title of this page is just glass containers.
Oh, okay.
So top, you've got some little glass containers. In the middle are all these candy containers. And then on the bottom, you've got some various things, the cat and dog bottle, a candlestick, or the decanter, etc. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Jack, I have a question for you. Your
Yes,
your
sir.
gray cut pieces, are those all Cambridge cuttings, you think?
Some are identified as Cambridge cuttings, and I believe they all are because I have them on a number of different pieces, the same cutting.
Okay.
But there's no documentation on it, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah, it's tough to know. I agree.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the 1920s they were not documenting what was going on in the cutting department all that much. So
I look to you for knowledge of those.
yeah.
Hey, Jack, I've got a question. You showed the 3,500 covered candy or covered urn.
Yep.
I'm pretty comfortable with what a covered candy is. What is
That?
meant by a covered urn? What is an urn, I guess?
Well, that's a good question. When we think of urns, geez, do they put somebody's ashes in it, or I don't know what the proper they had there were Cambridge made and called them urns in a lot of different lines, anything from Chelsea going all the way up to 3,500 and more. They called them urns, but what the real use was, your guess is as good as mine. Maybe somebody here can answer that question.
On that subject, an urn is also called a flower pot. Would that have anything to do with that?
I doubt it. It has a lid, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
think.
that's true.
Yeah, I think
Because I think of urns too as the big planters you see in like cemetery headstones.
Yeah. No, I think these were just decorative items that you could put things in it. So I guess.
We'll chalk this one up to the marketing department. Several uses for the same item.
Yeah.
Jack, on those early candy bottles, hasn't Mark and I and a lot of the other early researchers pointed out that those molds very likely came from the National Combine. So
yes, yeah, you're
Cambridge
talking about
made
these?
them, but
Yes.
there's really no way for sure that they were made by Cambridge.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever actually
Single
seen
one.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
So
Because when they first opened the factory, from what I've been told, they got molds from other sources to get the company
Right.
rolling.
Yeah.
Before they started
what
making their
US
own.
glass? Is that where they
Yeah, that was part of the National Combine.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, good point. Mhm. Any other
Okay, are there
questions?
any other questions?
All right, if not, I will stop the share and we're back.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's see what people have to show this month. We'll start with Jeff and we'll put Gwinnell on deck.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. First one, if I can get it without breaking it, is the 300 Pristine with the rose finial on top. It is signed on the bottom. You can see that one. And the other one in the pristine line, this one here with the Elaine etch. And then this one Jack showed already, but since I got it out, I might as well show it too in the Elaine. And this one is really cool. 3-part covered candy in amber with the ormolu on it, holder. That one I really like. That one's pretty cool. And then the last one I have is this one here. Another 3900, 165 with the Elaine etch. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Oh, very interesting. I love that ormolu. Is that a gold tone or more of a silver tone?
Gold.
Gold. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a
I'm gonna have
gold
to find
tone.
one of those. That was very,
looks
very
really-
interesting.
It looks really cool on this amber.
Are there any markings on the ormolu, Jeff?
Not that I have found. Not that I have found. Let me take it off and see. Yeah, I don't see any marks on it anywhere.
That's the first one I've ever seen with a candy box and an ormolu. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's
Very
really cool. I
interesting.
found this one in Illinois visiting the daughter one day.
Very cool.
The ormolu is almost always with gold crystal, so the company must have bought predominantly gold crystal. And this one, they could have switched the, gold crystal amber, but I agree with Jeff. I
Right.
love the amber.
I
So
do
do
too.
I. It's just really cool. It's like almost perfect. There's no scratches or anything in it. I really like it. It's got these 3 tabs on here. If you can see that, where's my camera? These 3 little tabs here
Yes.
that just kind of go right in and hold it in place. It's just really cool. Goes right in all the little handles.
I might also
That's-
add, Jeff, both your Elaine, those 3900 candy boxes are not easy to find. Those are both
Really?
both top pieces.
Oh. Well, that's cool to know.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
So next, let's go to Gwinnell, and then we'll have Mark Voss after that. I think Mark's on. Thought I saw him on. Okay, so Gwinnell and then Mark.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with New Martinsville. And it's a candy container. It does not have the base on it, but it's the Jackie Coogan.
Oh.
It is the candy container. And it is marked Jackie Coogan on the front. And then it's back to the 3900. And it's in the candlelight, 3-part. Jack didn't show Caprice. Caprice, they had 2 candy boxes. They had the single-footed one. And the same lid is on the other one. And it's the 3-footed. And this one's in the mulberry. Excuse me. The last one is often confused with Caprice. And this is the one that's actually signed Czechoslovakia. And it's got a similar pattern with Caprice, but it's got the 6 parts instead of 4. Found out it's done in Czechoslovakia. This lid and the base are signed. It would have been done after 1918 and prior to 1938 when it went to Czech Republic. So they would not have signed it Czechoslovakia any longer. But it's very similar. That's what I've got to share.
Well, thank you. And I find it very interesting that it's Czechoslovakia, but given Mr. Bennett's heritage, I'm not surprised. So it makes me kind of wonder, did he steal the design from this glass for Caprice? It's a question that's out there, I guess.
It is very similar. It's not quite as arched, it's more curved, but it's very, very similar. But it's a very nice piece. And I
Oh,
have seen it in a 3-part divided. This was just a single crunch.
oh, well, thank you for sharing that with us. I find that very interesting.
Julie, I have a comment if I could. before she
Sure.
continues. Gwinnell showed a 3,500 covered candy, and so did Jeff, and so did I, Jeff in the Ormolu holder. And here's one too as well. The same. This is Elaine and Amber. But what I wanted to, my point was wanted to make. I've seen a number of people talk about this. The bottom to this candy is actually the 3,400 3-part relish. And what Cambridge did is they took this and they made a 3,500 lid for it and put it on. Now, but you can tell if this piece was designed to have a lid because when they made for the candy dish, they did not etch the bottom. If they etched the bottom, that was made for it to be a 3,400 relish. If they didn't etch the bottom, then it was made to have the lid on it. So just little tidbit there, since we had 3 of them.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't know that. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jack.
Can I ask a
Like, that's
question?
not etched.
Jen?
Yep.
I know there was 2 people that said they wanted to ask a question. I don't know.
We'll start with you,
go ahead.
Christine.
So Gwinnell, I'm just curious. I have a couple of those Caprice candy dishes, and the pattern in the bottom of mine are different. They are not the same. Do you have a different pattern in the bottom on the inside?
I asked Lynn Welker about the pattern. And this candy dish was issued in the seashell as well as in the Caprice line. And this one's got a 3-part pattern in it. The other one has the swoosh in it like the seashell. Lynn Welker said they were issued in both lines and it was kind of interchangeable. But I think this is more the Caprice versus the seashell.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, because I've noticed that in mine, and I was just curious about it. Thank
It's
you.
the same lid.
Yep, it is.
Excellent question. We had another question. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask? Hearing none?
Yeah,
Okay.
there he is.
Oh, there you are.
I get it fine. Is there a difference in the weight between the Cambridge Caprice and the one that was marked Czechoslovakia? A difference in the weight of the bowls for the candy dishes?
Czechoslovakia is a lot heavier. The lid it's a different size as well.
Yeah, okay.
It's a very heavier piece. The base is very heavy.
It looks it, and I was just wondering.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Not any bubbles in it. It's very clear and just very nice. And the base has actually ground little knobs on the bottom instead of feet.
Mm.
But it's heavy, which is from that time period. It's more likely to be.
Thank you.
Quinell, I love how you bring in these other manufacturers' pieces for interest, because we kind of sometimes get Cambridged out. But this was fascinating to me that Czechoslovakian piece could have actually been the start of Caprice. And often we're so proud of Cambridge, we don't realize that a high percentage of the time Cambridge was the copier. We know that about me. The 10-inch swan is marked, there's identical one with France on the bottom. The small Everglade vase got France on the bottom on some of them. The ram's head knockoff completely of Wedgwood. So they were copying each other, these companies. If something looked nice, they were in business to make money. So thank you for sharing that. That was fascinating.
Yes, very good. Thank you so much. It's very interesting. And again, as Les says, I think Mr. Bennett's trip to Europe often came back with a few more designs to add to the Cambridge line. So that's perfect. So I hear Mark is having some issues logging on. So we're going to move to Mary and Jeff, and we'll put Tim on deck, please.
Can I ask one more question, please?
You sure can.
When you showed the first slide that showed the different containers, the first thing I thought of was a lot of the Avon containers that they came out with. And I thought, okay, did Avon get their ideas for some of their things, even the guns and some of the vehicles, from Cambridge? And who made them for Avon?
That's a
Yeah,
good question.
That's a good point. And we actually, it's funny you said that because Elaine's mother had a number of those little Avon things that came with stuff in them, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
were later than obviously the Cambridge ones were, but the idea was similar. So
Yeah.
Well, I think
Thank
it's
you.
just like everything. Art, you know, to copy someone's is actually paying tribute to their
Homage.
style. So, absolutely. So let's go to Mary and Jeff. And again, Tim is on deck.
Okay, so we've got quite a few, but we just pulled out a few for for tonight, so we wouldn't take up the whole program. One of the opaques that we of course love is Primrose. So this is the plain candy with the no divided inside. Just the regular plain. I guess this would be the pristine. There's the lid to it. Another one of our favorite patterns is Weatherford. So we got the amber Weatherford, and this has a nice little stripes on it, footed. And then we got the green. Another one of our favorite etches is the Willow etch. So this is the green. Lose that lid with the lobes on the lid here, and then the willow etch on the sides and the footed. Just love that etch. And then let's see, we have the crystal. I won't show the crystal with the rose fitting. We saw that one already, and Jack had the pink, which we also have, and then we have the green with the pink rose finial, and a little like a kind of almost like a butterfly or half butterfly cutting on it. And then the last pieces that we brought to show were, which I kind of consider them candies, but they are urns. But it's kind of interesting, and this is another pattern that we really love, is the Martha Washington or Centennial. The green one here has like a wider space, and the plain kind of spade kind of finial on it. And then the blue one is taller.
Much taller.
And has the pattern that goes all the way up to the top. This here, if I don't hold it right. And then the finial is more detailed. That's what we brought.
How interesting. How much difference is there in height between the two pieces of the Centennial?
Here, I'll have Jeff pick up can you pick up the,
I'll take the green. I got the green one. Okay, maybe the
let's
green one.
hold them up side by side.
Want to see them side by side?
Okay, move yours closer to hers, please.
There's probably,
And
uh,
couple, not really, not very significant,
half
although
an
this
inch,
one
maybe
looks.
3/4 of an inch taller.
And when we have them on the end table, they're on opposite sides of a lamp. The blue one looks much taller. I think partly because it's thinner, like narrower in the bottom.
Actually, if I look at them again, I bet you the blue one's at least half an inch, if not 3/4 of an inch taller than the green one.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, it's always nice to see the side by sides, to see the little nuances between the different styles, and it's even within the same kind of pattern. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that with us. Very,
You're
very
welcome.
much appreciated.
Oh, certainly.
Okay. So next we'll go to Tim and we'll put Les on deck. Tim, are you there? I thought I saw him. No, I guess he is not. Okay, David, I'm sorry, Les, let's go with you and then we'll put David on deck.
Okay. Just a comment on those two covered pieces that Mary and Jeff just showed. That they're beautiful, especially in color. And that line was in Cambridge made for so many years. It started out as Centennial, then it was Victorian, then it was Martha Washington, and then it was Heirloom. So it's kind of funny that more of it doesn't pop up. It may be that it's just crystal and we overlook it. But my gosh, the blue one is gorgeous that they shared. Well, I just have three. This blank is one that Jeff showed. It's the pristine covered candy. But this is my favorite Charlton decoration. There's an advertisement for it from 1952. Most of Charlton is from the 1950s. There might have been a bit in the late 40s, but it's predominantly 1950s that Charlton in New York City was buying Cambridge blanks and decorating them. And I think this has been, I don't think there's a name by Charlton for this, but this mottled, spattered look on it that's hand applied. It's crystal blank. I think it's just gorgeous. And I've wanted one of the decanters. I think it's got a number 1321, that decanter, but it's hard to find one that's in really good condition as far as especially the gold. But I like that piece, and it's from the 1950s. Another one of the comports that was converted to a candy box was the nude stem. This one is amber. And as far as nudes, amber nudes, like they're very common in the brandies and in the cocktails. But actually, otherwise, amber nudes are rather hard to find. So it's amazing. Now, not a lot of people collect amber, so maybe that works out well. Most people want royal blue or carmine or amethyst or something like that. But actually, this piece with the amber, complete is rather uncommon to find. And the last piece is another blank that's been shown before. This is that 3400 didn't have a name. It's 3400. And this is with the Japonica. And there just haven't been many of these in Japonica pop up. And it would probably make some sense with the cover and stuff. It was more likely to get damaged and therefore disposed of. So there haven't been very many of these that have popped up over time. But and Japana, of course, we thought for so many years it was 1937. Well, Mark Nye's research showed no, it was 1934 that was introduced right in the prime of the enamel era. The Cambridge was doing so much enamel work. And again, that ended up being a very difficult time with the relationship between Japan and China. So the Japonica wasn't a nice name to be using for a product, so they changed it to Hawthorne at the end. This piece is not signed. Often they are on the bottom. This doesn't have a signature on it. It's a white enamel Japonica signature. So that's what I have, Julie. Thank you.
All right, beautiful. And I'm with you. I really like that Charlton design. You don't see it often, but it seems a little more Art Deco to me. That's why I'm drawn to it, I guess. But thank you for
And actually,
sharing
it's
those, Les.
1950s.
Yeah, I know, but it has a
I
retro.
agree.
look, I guess.
Yeah, that's I think
Yeah.
why I like it too.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing those. And obviously the Japonica piece is outstanding. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Julie,
Yes.
I have an observation for his candy dish, which you call Art Deco. What it reminds me of is multiple cultures growing on an agar plate.
It does. It does look like that, doesn't it?
I thought,
A biologist must have made that one. It does look like an auger. You're absolutely right. It absolutely looks like that. Thank you. Great observation. Oh boy. Next, let's go to David, and then we're going to put Mark Voss on deck. He has arrived.
Thank you, Julie. Mary and Jeff showed a candy this evening, the light emerald one with the willow etching on it. And I was, I have one of those candies, but mine's a little bit different. Mine is in the ivory, but it's not decorated. So probably most of you at home are struggling to see that there is actually the willow etching on the bottom. And I thought that the willow would also be on the lid of the candy, but the etching that's on the perimeter of the candy lid does match the one that Mary showed, but the finial on her candy is a different finial. It was what I call the flying saucer finial. This is a different one. So I guess they made these in different ways, but I thought it's so strange that they would put an etching on ivory. You almost cannot see it until you're within a few inches of it. So, but I was concerned that somehow they had married this up, which I thought was very unusual to be able to do. But when Mary showed her candy box, the etching was exactly the same. So I feel better that this is the correct lid on this candy box. So it's got the willow etching down here. I really wish they'd have spent a little extra time and put some blue enamel in there. Just a few extra minutes would have made a big difference.
That's right.
And then, and then a similar candy that I have that's decorated a little bit differently. And it has that other flying saucer lid. And this one has the hand-painted irises on it. Not a whole lot of decorate on the bottom half, but the feet are decorated in the same green enamel that the finial is decorated. So these two candies side by side, probably made at right around the exact same time, just a slightly different variation on the lid, and probably they could come either way. I'm not sure that there was one lid preferred over the other for the iris decoration or the willow etching. So that's what I have this evening. And I've really, really enjoyed seeing all the other examples that people have shown this evening. They're really cool. And when Mary was showing her willow blue Martha Washington candy, that made me feel good because I know she appreciates that, and she got that from me. And it was such a cool piece. It's still the only piece of Martha Washington I have seen in willow blue up to this point. So that's kind of cool to see it in that color.
Yes. I do have a question for you, David. Like on the finial that's on the iris box, I notice it's not a flat flying saucer. It almost appears to be the shape of a flower. So do you think
you're right? You're
that's a little
correct.
different?
It does have that scallop flower looking decorate to it, and maybe later on in the 40s they did just smooth that out a little bit. And I believe there is a another finial where this, instead of the flower, the scallops, it is perfectly smooth around the outside. So maybe they just made a slight modification of the mold. But yes, it does. It is scalloped around the circumference.
Very interesting.
David, I wonder if it's not a timing thing. Has that one you just showed, that knob, has that ever popped up on a piece of azurite? I don't think so. And only that second one you just showed, that's the only one I think that appears on Pomona green, what we used to call avocado. So and of course, ivory covered both of those time periods. It came after azurite, but went longer. So it may be that they just decided to use a different top to that lid with time.
Right. This particular lid you see on almost all of the half-pound and quarter-pound candy jars. So maybe later on, in the 20s, they just modified this to. I think that other finial actually is a little bit more elegant than this finial.
Right. I think all of them, an azurite, jade, Carrera, I think they all have that taller version. And then the later, they switched. Just a thought.
Yeah, good observation. That's all I've
Okay.
got, Julie.
Thank you so much. Very interesting on the finial. Okay, next we'll go to Mark and then we'll put Mike on deck. I mean, Greg, sorry. Mark, Greg, sorry. Greg, hopefully you're still here. Did we lose it? No, I show Mark's iPhone. Ask him to unmute.
Okay, got it.
Here you are.
I found the button. Anyway, it's good to see everybody. I wanted to share a couple of my 3,400 candy boxes that I got. This started at convention one year, like near the end of the glass show where everybody was starting to pack up and you're like, so I ran around a little bit. And anyway, this started, I think I got this from Mike Strebler. It's just the gold crystal and apple blossom. This kind of got it started. And then from there, I got a gold encrusted rose point candy box. And then I found that you could collect quite a few of these. Well, apple blossom is one, but Diane is another one. Quite a number of colors available in Diane. So I've gotten one in gold crystal, Diane.
Hello.
Dianthus pink or peach blow.
What?
I'm on a phone call right now. I'm on a phone call right now. What? I'm on a phone call. I'm on a phone call right now.
We'll give him a second to get back.
All right. One of my favorites is, thank you, Mr. Ray, is this forest green Diane candy box, which is quite striking. It's really thick and beautiful green. And runner up to the most beautiful is the willow blue candy box in Diane. One more I have is what I wanted to share was the candlelight. Well, this one has some candy in it, actually. So it's a user. And one thing I noticed about that, which is kind of neat, was of course, the lid has several levels. It's got the knob on the top and then like a little area here, and then it kind of drops down to the final part. But the etching, the very tip of the etching just makes it onto the top of this level right here. Just the very tip of the etching. It's like they just were able to, they couldn't squeeze it all in the bottom part. The very, very tip of it, of the flame or whatever that is lapping over to that top level. Kind of neat. That's what I got.
Well, thank you. And I think it's a toss-up. I think I'd have to go with the green that I like better over the moonlight. That is absolutely stunning. So thank you for sharing that. And it's very nice to see how the decoration looks very different on the different colors. It's almost, to me, it pops on the green. So very, very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I never noticed that on the candlelight box. I'm going to have to go look at the one I have and see if it too is just on the rim of that. So thank you.
Question for Mark.
Greg.
Greg. I can't believe I did that.
I know, I did it because
Okay.
he's always
But your
on
screen
Mark's
says
phone.
Mark. Greg, so do you know the trail on any of those Diane pieces that are on color blanks? Because it seems like so many of them originate in Australia. Did you happen to buy from Australia? So
No,
I
I don't.
think there was a major customer or distributor in Australia that really did the Diane on the colored blanks, because it's not, it wasn't a normal thing that, popped up everywhere. So just an observation that I think a lot of them may have originated in, they originated in Cambridge, but might have come through Australia.
Well, I know that I think isn't a lot of amber Diane that has come out of Australia. Isn't that a color that seems to pop up a lot from Australia?
I think all of the colors, Greg.
Yeah, because I don't have that one yet, and I don't have a trip planned to Australia at the moment, so maybe I can find one some other way.
We'll put that on your wish list. So thank you so much again for sharing that. It's much appreciated, but beautiful pieces. Everyone's pieces tonight have been beautiful. So next we'll go to Mike. Mike, do you want to unmute?
I do, Julie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Greg, first, I'm sorry I did that to you and got you started like that.
It's okay.
So
It's really okay.
a story about the lid on those, that lid also goes on a ring stem covered urn. It just sits over the top. I found out the hard way. I had a ring stem covered urn sitting in the top tier of a case, and I opened the glass door, and the jiggling, it fell off and it popped out of the case and hit a concrete floor and shattered into a zillion pieces. And I just couldn't believe it was the same lid, because that lid seems so heavy on that candy dish, but it's really pretty light. So anyway, that's a story. Well, Les already took the thunder on this one. This is right now, this is a royal blue 3011 Comport is what it's called. But when I put the lid on it, and Jack, you had a piece you didn't like touching. I don't like touching this one. And then when you put the lid on it, it becomes a covered candy. And Les, you said that amber was hard to find in the other pieces. I agree with you. But I will say this, I think the covered candy is the hardest nude to find. Some people say the sauterne, or I'm sorry, the sweet meat, but I actually think it's the candy. And
I agree with you, Mike.
Okay, I only brought one other piece, and this piece has provenance. Is it provenance? Is that the word? Les, help me. When it's got a story behind it.
You got it, man.
Okay, so I have a pretty big cuttings collection, so I have a lot of the blanks we've seen tonight that are cut. I couldn't, I thought I'd just bring one, and so I got one that I took to a cuttings program I did for NCC one time, and then Lynn told me the story on it, and this is the cut candy dish. And the story is that Herschel Hancock did 2 of these as a gift for somebody. But this is the most cut piece that I own, I think. Each of these little, looks like they're flat pieces, those are actually cut. They got a zillion lines in each one. So that's what I got. That's my that's all I brought tonight, Julie. I do have the 3400 candy dish that Greg brought. I do have that one in Carmen, that's gold encrusted Portia.
Oh, pretty.
And I think I've had it here before. Greg, when I'm done with it, you're welcome to it. Just sign in at the funeral home. Tell Lisa that I said you could have it. That's
Well,
it.
he might have some people that might be vying for that one. So you better put it in the will. But anyway, are there anybody else that has anything to share this evening?
I do.
Oh, excellent, Christine.
Sorry, I sent a message, but they must have not gotten you the message. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I have some candy dispensers to show, and let's make sure. Can you see that one? Okay. With the blur, sometimes it makes it hard. So this is the little car, and it does have on the very top, it's where the candy would have been. And I'm probably better take this blur off, or it's gonna just make it hard for everyone to see. So I'm gonna change that. Sorry about this. That better?
Yes.
Okay. I also have a couple of the ships. So here is one of the ships, and this one, of course, is the opening is on the bottom of it. Just kind of interesting. They put the openings in different spots. The other ship I have is this one. So it's a much larger one. And of course, this would have had a lid, of course, on the top of it. So I don't know if you can see that okay. And then I have the clock. So, and this has the lid is on the back. It's a metal lid on the back of this one. It's the first one actually that I got. And then I have a question, if anyone knows this, I don't know. I bought this one. So this is, you saw this one that Jack had it. Of course, this is the train. This one has candy in it. Does anyone have a clue what candy would have come in it? Because I have no idea. I don't know if you can see the candy. It's little tiny little beads. They probably were little sweet candies or something. So, and of course, this is the one with the metal was on the metal lid was on the back and on the bottom. Anyone know if that would have been the original candy, or did someone add it later? I guess is my question.
Christine, I would imagine that just other companies bought those, filled them with candy, and then
Right.
sold them.
I figured, but I just was curious if this would have been the candy that it was sold with or not. Just probably.
I had a question while I'm talking. With that first boat you showed where the opening was on the bottom.
Yeah.
So how did they keep candy in there and still, how did that work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I have no idea. I know like some of them, some of the newer ones actually had a cardboard piece, but it doesn't have really anything that the cardboard could have stuck to. Because I can remember even being a kid buying some of these with cardboard on the bottom, and the cardboard was actually glued to the glass, and you had to pull the cardboard off. But that's a good question. Other than that, I honestly don't know. All the other ones, like you can see, like this one with the car, again, they would have put the candy probably in this top, but there really is nothing that would have held the candy in. Does that make sense?
Christine,
There was
Yeah.
Christine, I was a retailer of those things for 8, 10 years.
Yeah.
And the candy is god awful stuff, and you have appropriate candy in your container.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a pasty droplet. It's almost like sprinkles on ice cream.
Really?
And the covers were anything from cardboard, just like you supposed, to a little metal tin that squeezed and clipped in.
Okay.
The ones with the screw lids were really nice because they didn't fall all over the place when a kid finally opened one up in front of you, you know.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I actually bought glass candy containers when I was pretty young at the little 5 and dime stores. They
Neat.
had them, and of course, what did I do? I ate the candy and threw the glass away. Of course
Oh
I
yeah.
did. You know? And the last thing I have to show, it's just kind of a really neat one that I have. And this is a divided, okay, of course it has the 3-part to it. I don't know if you can see that really well, but it has a cutting on it. And this is a King Edward, and here's the lid. So make sure you can see the King Edward one, which I think is a really neat one. It's one of my favorites. Thank you for letting me show.
Just a question on this. I don't know if you know, but on the King Edward, a lot of the King Edward also had silver. Does anyone know if that also came with a silver knob? Because I know the Chantilly one, just like that, the 3-part comes with a silver knob and a non-silver knob. And King Edward also had a lot of silver pieces that kind of were the same as that the Chantilly pattern came in. Does anyone know if it came with a
Yeah,
silver knob?
it did, Julie. I have it both with and without the silver knob.
Okay, thanks.
Julie, can I chip in for a minute?
You sure can.
Christine was asking about the candies. I have quite a few candy containers. I don't believe any of them are Cambridge, but I ran and grabbed a couple that had the candy in them when I bought them. Can you see them?
Hold them back just a shade there.
Farther up.
Further up?
There you
How's
go.
that?
There you
They're a bunch
Good
of little
little
colored
dog.
balls. And I think I've got a couple others that are about the same way. It's just a bunch of little colored balls. I've got a couple of the lanterns, a couple other dogs, but that's what they were. I don't know that it'd be very good to eat, but that's what they looked like.
Yeah, I think they call those little covered balls pastilles.
Pastilles,
And
okay.
pastille is, I think, the proper name for it. They still use the pastilles, the really small little round balls. You find them a lot in baking. So I'm kind of wondering if that's the candy. I think it was called a pastille, Pastilles, kind of a French term. But yeah, you still see those little colored balls in baking and so forth. They're kind of, as I think someone said, they're a little pasty. They're not very, to me, they're not very delicious.
Well,
Aren't they what
considering
you
I don't
put
know
on a
how old this
nonpareil?
candy is.
Or a Perel, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
A nonpareil.
A non-Perel.
They put them on the top of those candies called nonpareils, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's it too. And it's on, I've seen them also called, I think, pastille. I'll have to check that term for sure. But yeah, you're right. They're on those little snow caps, right? That you get at the movie theater.
Julie, I have a question for the candy container collectors. Aren't candy containers collected widely with different manufacturers so that it's hard to find? There's a lot of competition for the Cambridge ones because they're part of Christine's shaking her head. I'll defer to you. Unmute yourself, Chris.
Yeah, it is true. I've heard that same statement before, Mike, that they can be really hard to find. And I can tell you the ones I found, I had to pay up for them, to be honest. I did not get them cheap, to be honest, every single one of them. But they're just really a cool thing, kind of a thing I remembered from being a kid, as I mentioned before, very similar. And so that's why I kind of have collected those and I've gotten a few of them. A lot of them, they're damaged. It's very hard. I actually have 3 of the trains and I don't think I have one that isn't damaged, but they're just neat. So
I think I've run across candy container collectors that were much broader than just Cambridge, and it struck me they were hard to come by and they were expensive.
Yep, you are right, Mike. I totally agree with you on that statement.
So I've run through our list. Is there anyone else that has any glass to show?
Hey, Julie, can I share something, a question that was earlier?
Sure.
Did a little research. So you guys were asking about urns. I actually looked up the definition of an urn in the dictionary. And according to dictionary.com, it is a vase. It says a large decorative vase, especially one with an ornamental foot or pedestal. That was the first definition it gives. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, I think it is listed in a lot of the Cambridge catalogs as a vase, actually. So it was interesting when it was brought up as a candy container. So I found that very interesting. Okay, so it sounds like that's all we have for this evening. So David, I'm going to return it to you to close us out.
Thank you again, Julie. Again, thank you for everyone that took the extra time and effort to share glass this evening. It's always so fun to see the items out there. And I do have to, a disclosure, Greg last caught me in a couple weak moments on those 3,400 candy boxes, but I know they went to a wonderful home and he appreciates them just as much as I did. And I agree. The Forest Green Diane 3,400 candy is the prize winner. And I am on the lookout for the amber one as we speak. Next month, Jonathan Furman is going to lead our Zoom and Tell program on comports and compotes. I was a Caprice collector for a while and still am, but I was an avid Caprice collector. And it's amazing what Cambridge called a compote or a comport. They're not always those pedestals with a little candy dish sitting on the top. Cambridge used that word a little bit more broad than just specifically to those items. So if you're questioning whether an item fits the definition of compote or comport, you might want to check on the database. So Jonathan's going to be leading that program in July, and that is July 9th. So go ahead and start looking for those items. And I'm sure Julie's going to say this, but I'm going to say it too. We're looking forward to seeing people at convention here in about a week and a half. It is, or maybe even just 2 weeks now. So it's going to be an exciting program. And Julie and the committee, the convention committee, I know have worked really hard to put a great convention together. And the Glass Show committee has done a great job. The Glass Dash committee has sold out the Glass Dash, so there's going to be lots of opportunities to add to your collection and have a lot of fun at the same time. So until next time, we'll hope to see you at convention, and the next Zoom and Tell is July the 9th.
Thank you, David. Julie. And yes, I'm putting in a shameless plug for convention. Again, it's the Roaring 20s. I don't know about you ladies that are coming, but I certainly have my feather headdress all ready to go, and I'll be ready to have a good time. So I hope everyone else, you gentlemen, put the spats in the pocket squares and come to have a good time. So appreciate everyone joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing everyone again on July 9th. So everyone have a wonderful evening. And again, thanks to everyone that shares their glass with us each and every month.